Hey everyone, another quick video for you today, this time off the back of a comment from Ben on my last video, who had asked how to set up multiple audio outputs on Superior Drummer 3 in Reason. So that's what we're going to take a look at today, and it's really easy to set up. So the issue is that the rack device for VSTs has 8 sets of stereo outputs, whereas if we look at the mixer view for something like the Metal Foundry, you'll see that it has way more than 8 channels. And if we look on the output assignment, Superior Drummer 3 has 16 stereo outputs, where the VST device only has 8. Thankfully, the solution to this is really simple. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to take the kick in, right and left, and I'm going to pan them all the way over to the left. Now the reason I'm doing this is that each stereo pair is obviously 2 mono channels. And that's what we're going to do, is we're going to separate out these stereo outputs into 2 mono channels, and then we'll reserve a small handful of stereo outputs for things like the ambient and overhead mics. So kick left and right can go to the left channel of 1 and 2. Kick out you might want on its own channel, and then we can bus that separately in Reason later on, so that can go all the way to the right. Now for the snare top channels, I'm going to change the output to 3 and go to the left. And we'll do the same here for the condenser and dynamic mics. And then for the bottom, we'll do the right channel of outputs 3 and 4. Same for the dynamic mic. And I'm just going to work my way through the channels. Now obviously this means that you'll have to do the balancing between condenser and dynamic within the Superior plugin, but it's a pretty small trade-off. Snare trash I probably wouldn't use at all, as we can do that with some kind of parallel channel in the Reason mixer, so I'll set that to none. The hi-hat now needs to go on the left of 5 and 6. So then that's going to leave output 6 free of 5 and 6. Left on 7 and 8. And then finally the floor toms on left and right of 9 and 10. So then that's going to leave us with 3 sets of stereo outputs, so we could use one of those for the overheads. And again, you might want to create your own custom blend, or you might only want to use one of these channels. And then we'll put all of the rooms on 13 and 14, and maybe we'll have a close on 13 and 14 and far on 15 and 16. And then the mono, I'm just going to set this to none, as we don't need to use it. Now if for whatever reason you did need more stereo pairs, you could save some of the mono channels by just grouping the rack toms into a single stereo pair, and then you can do your balancing and panning from within the plugin. But if you prefer to do it in the Reason mixer environment, then obviously this way works out good, as you're going to have access to every tom. So for now I can close the Superior Drummer 3 plugin. The next thing I'll do is I'm going to disconnect this and bring this mix channel down just underneath the plugin. And then all I need to do is drag out from output 1 to the left input of the mixer channel while holding shift. And what that does is it prevents automatic stereo routing. So if you ever want to just connect one channel, you hold shift while you make the connection, and that's now a mono channel. So what I can actually do is get my mix channels ready ahead of time. So I know that we need 10 mono channels. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have overheads, room close, room far. And then I'm just going to work my way through each of these outputs, again while holding shift. So the right output of 1 and 2 then goes into the mono input of the second mix channel, and so on. So now when I get to the final 3 outputs, I don't need to hold shift because I want these to be stereo, and we can just make those connections. So now if I've worked this all out right, we should have all of the drums on their own channels coming through Reason's mixer. So then the next thing I would do from here is I would start naming my mixer channels. So let's call this one kick in and kick out, snare top, snare bottom, so then the next thing I would do from here is create some group buses for some of these channels. So kick in and out you're likely to want to treat these as one channel when you come to the mixing stage. So I'm going to select the channels, hold Command and press G, and that then sends them to the run bus. So we'll call this kick group. And we'll do the same for the snare and for the toms. And then I'm going to take the unassigned channels, so that's hats, overheads, room close, room far, and then the group channels, and create one final bus for these called drums group. And then from my toms here, I can create the panning on the individual channels. So we'll just create a nice kind of rich spread for each of the toms. So that's just something that I like to do personally, is that I kind of have my panning set to extremes on the direct channels, and then I use that width control depending on how wide I want that group to sound. Now, when it comes to actually mixing the drums, I think that's a subject for another video, or probably another few videos. But you can see that the mix console has this kind of SSL style thing going on. So you've got compression, gating, console style EQ, and also some signal path options up here, such as where the dynamics, EQ, and inserts are in the signal chain. And then, of course, in addition to that, you've got the insert slots for each of these channels. So if you wanted to use a VST, so say something from the Native Instruments suite, then you could just drag this in underneath. You see, I haven't made thumbnails for these yet, so I probably should do that at some point. And of course, there's a bunch of other stuff you could do. Things like parallel processing is really easy in Reason. So as I said earlier, I wasn't going to use the snare trash mic because I could just do the same thing using a parallel channel. So I could go to my snare group, right click and choose create parallel channel. And then on that, I could use something like Scream 4. And then blend it with the original. As I say, that would be something that would be cool to do in another video or another video series, is just kind of work through all of this and create a drum mix. Just a couple more things that I'll mention here. So this configuration of output channels, there isn't currently a way that you can kind of save all of this as one unit. Now, what I would tend to do in that instance is save this project as a drum mix template. So let's just put this anywhere for now. Yeah, we'll call this Superior 3 multi-out. Now, if I had a new project and I wanted to bring that drum mix in, the way that I would do that is to then open the template project that I saved. So we'll open Superior 3 multi-out. And then what I'm going to do is just go into the mixer, select all of these channels, copy them, go to my new project, and then paste into the mixer. And then obviously just switch to the multi-out Reason file and close it, as I don't want to use up too much memory and resources. You could also go into the Superior plugin itself and create some presets that have this alternate panning going on. And then all you'd need to do is create the mixer channels and make the connections. It would be cool if there was a way to save all of these connector channels. Maybe that's something that would come in a future version. But for now, I'd say the best way to do it is probably to save that configuration in its own project, and then you can just copy and paste the channels into a new project if you need them. So I hope this has been a useful video, and as always, thanks for watching.